Where are we? It doesn't appear to be 2024 anymore. As a matter of fact, it seems to be what? What are those haircuts? They're terrible. They look like Mo Howard haircuts. What are
I
those
did
men
them.
singing? Rock and roll music? I want to hold your hand. Disgusting. Filth. Filth, I say.
And to think we took the phone booth to get here. I told you we should have took the DeLorean.
That's right. You're right. Who pushed the wrong button?
Well, it's us, three guys who love you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I am Rich Hurley, also known as Dr. Durant, and with me are a couple of other insects. Not beetles, roaches. Lou Malagrana.
Yay.
And Max Overnighter, the
Yes.
Polish pierogi.
That's right. I prefer to be called the mosquito or the grasshopper or something. You know,
Grasshopper. Nice.
Grasshopper.
Nice.
And we are here today to talk about the pop culture of 1964, which is another amazing year for pop culture, right?
It actually is. It's a very, very cool year for pop culture. Now, especially for me, as well, you can't see me on the podcast, but me being kind of a Batman guy, 1964 was a pretty iconic year for me as a Batman collector. There you go, sing it. No, not because Adam West, we still got a couple of years to get to Adam West, but 1964, Sheldon Moldoff did redo and redraw and produce the new look Batman in 1964. Prior to 1964, Batman, if you had seen the Batman, he had just the black bat emblem across his chest. But in 1964, we saw the black bat with the gold oval that we a lot of us recognize, or the yellow oval. A lot of us recognize now, as part of the Batman thing. So that's a new thing. It's also drawn a little bit smaller, and a couple other main pieces that were added to the Batman thing was that Dick's Aunt Harriet moved into Wayne Manor.
She's a pain in the butt, man. Aunt Harriet, yeah.
June of 1964.
I'll take things that sound dirty but aren't. Dick's Aunt Harriet.
There you go.
Clean your room, Dick.
And also, and then the alter ego in August of 1964 in Justice League number 29, Crime Syndicates. The alter ego of Batman was, of course, Owlman. That was also introduced in 1964.
I did not know that.
That's right. And they used to, that was a big crossover event that DC would do every year with the Justice League. They would meet with they would fight the Crime Syndicate or go to the alternate Earths and meet different versions of themselves.
Right. Yeah. Now, Owlman, Ultraman. That was the opposite of Superman, right?
Do you know why they said that supposedly later on in continuity, why the yellow symbol was put around Batman's bat there, his emblem?
No,
it was supposedly because, of course, he's supposed to be the bat, right? He's at night, you can't see him. Now he's this big yellow thing on his chest, so he just sticks right out. Right. Supposedly the reason they said behind it was so that the criminals would aim for that and shoot at that because that's where his bulletproof padding was. They would see that and use it as a target, and
it's
rather than shoot him in the head by accident or something like that.
There you go.
Makes sense.
But yeah, makes perfect sense.
Another comic book first in 1964 is, of course, the character of Daredevil debuted in Marvel Comics. Similar to Batman in a way, a street level superhero that fights crime, and that was his big debut for Marvel Comics. Still going strong. Still, I think they're trying to bring him into the MCU again. They did have that Netflix show for a while, and
he had like a 2-second appearance or something, right?
He showed up in She-Hulk, and he showed up in Spider-Man. And I think they're gonna bring him. Kingpin's back too. He was in Hawkeye, and I think he's on whatever. What's the newest MCU show? I've been so far behind on him. I know he showed up again in something.
I already canceled my Disney subscription after the Marvels. I said enough's enough.
Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, the same guy playing Kingpin that he's he's on some show that I just caught a little bit of something. Same one that played him in the Daredevil on the CW show. And that was I really like that show. And as a matter of fact, I was turned on to that show by a friend of mine who knew I was a Batman guy, and he said, "No, you'd really dig Daredevil if you like Batman." Because obviously I kind of like Batman.
Right.
But
He
told me that he said you got to check out the Daredevil show, because you'd really like that. Because the thing I like about the Batman, very many of the same attributes about the Batman that I like, show up with the Daredevil. It's not like he's got superpowers. It's just human powers that are just highly advanced and trained.
Yeah.
And also, he at the same time told me that I would probably really dig Moon Knight on the Marvel side there too. So, and
Moon Knight's fantastic. I love
He
Moon Knight.
was right on both cases. So yeah,
he's kind of like a Batman in himself.
Yeah.
Another big get for 1964, or big debut in 1964, was the Johnny Quest cartoon.
Oh, that show was awesome.
Yeah, it was, and it still holds up to this day. And it was the first. It was meant to be like sort of an adult cartoon, right? It was.
Was it really? Oh, I didn't realize that.
Well, because it's an adventure cartoon, and up until then, everything Hanna-Barbera had sort of done had been the Flintstones and goofy stuff, and then they did this. And I mean, people die in Johnny Quest. The villains usually get killed at the end.
That's true.
It's
it was a good show. I love that show when I watched it.
Yeah, a lot of great shows debuted that year. Johnny Quest, but also on the TV screen we had the Munsters and the Addams Family.
Oh yeah,
both making their debuts along with Bewitched, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Gilligan's Island, Flipper. A lot of good shows, and on these shows. I mean, you can still watch them now today and still enjoy all of them.
That was Gilligan's Island in black and white, which
correct.
Color, wow, what a difference!
Changed to the color in 1966.
Also, a different beginning, a little different. I think they didn't put the professor on in the original one, right? When they did the introduction, or maybe I'm wrong.
I think you're right. And the rest, they would say,
the
rest, and his wife, and the rest and then they finally said,
they skipped the professor and Marianne part. Yeah.
It was still funny, but it was a little bit more serious. Like Gilligan's Island in black and white is like watching an Ingmar Bergman film. Like it's like really grim, right? Like it's supposed to be funny, but it's like finally when they got to color, it was good. But yeah, you've got those two again riding that's right around 1964. You're in the height of the Monster Kid wave too, so that's why it was Addams Family and the Munsters coming out to ride on that. But you're also big in the spy genre. James Bond, the ultimate James Bond movie came out in 1964.
Yes,
it debuted in September 1964 in England, Goldfinger, and then shortly thereafter, December 1964, it shows up in the U.S. And that is sort of the template for all James Bond movies.
Fantastic
movie. Goldfinger. It's the one that really just people went crazy. It's many people consider it the best James Bond out of all the James Bond films, or at least the one that is, I guess, the most James Bondy, so to speak.
Loved it.
I mean, fantastic from the song by Shirley Bassey right through everything. It's great movie.
I miss all those good James Bond films. I got a little later. Some were all right, but I do like what's his face today. Was it Daniel Craig? I think his name is. I like him, but
yeah. I've liked them all for the most part. I'd say probably my least favorite one Bond is Remington Steele there.
Yes. Oh, Pierce Brosnan. Yeah.
Pierce Brosnan ones are my least favorite.
I mean, I can see why they picked them, but it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. See, for me, James Bond, well, Sean Connery, obviously, but Roger Moore was the one that, I can still remember.
That was my favorite.
Yeah. I think the first James Bond movie that I got to see was the Roger Moore version. Was a Roger
I'm surprised
because we actually saw it in the drive-in. My parents said it was the one with Jaws.
Yeah.
Yes, Moonraker. I saw that.
Spy Who Loved Me. Well, he's in Spy Who Loved Me first, and then he's in Moonraker. He comes back.
Yeah.
But Max, I'm surprised that the first James Bond movie you saw was in the 70s, because I mean, you were probably younger, but like you were as a kid, you didn't go to see any of the Connery James Bonds? Like nobody was watching those?
No, when I was, for me, in the 60s and stuff, I didn't really go to a lot of movies in the theater. I was all about television, in the
Right.
60s,
Yeah.
well, we spent a lot of time outside and, doing stuff, but
Actually
it
playing,
was,
you mean? Like doing
yeah,
something?
that kind of thing, you got to get those frogs to throw down some girl's
Riding
blouse or
bikes.
something like that,
Right.
right? But a lot for me, it was a lot of the stuff that was on television. So this, Monsters Addams Family, and I well, of course, later on, was the Batman shows and things like Rat Patrol, Bonanza Combat, all of those things, Time Tunnel, so it was a lot of television.
These are all shows that I watched in syndication, but loved as much, because probably to me and Lou, they were first run shows because
They
they
were
would be
first
on
run
after
shows,
school
yeah,
when you come
kids,
home
yeah.
from school and you'd be like, oh, Gilligan's
Yeah.
Island is a
Yeah,
classic.
exactly.
Like every kid
Yeah.
watched that show. It
Yep.
was on every day after school.
Oh, yeah.
And another show that debuted that year as riding the James Bond wave that we're talking about is The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
There you go.
Man
Great.
from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah,
debuted
we
in-
watched that.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
That debuted
But-
in 1964 and Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Both sort of these Cold War, like Voyage to
Yep.
the Bottom of the Sea started out as like a kind of spy espionage show. And then it turned into a Monster of the Week thing later on.
Right.
down the line.
Dude, Mary Poppins came out that year. You can't
Yeah.
forget that as much
Oh,
as
we can't forget Lou's
Can't
favorite
forget
film,
Mary
Mary Poppins.
Listen, my first movie I saw was Mary Poppins, but it was in the 70s, and I think it was had to be.
And it was not a musical. It was about some guy who had the sing in his pants. You want to see my Mary Poppins, Lou?
So it was 1973. It was a theater. Today it's a Cluck You Chicken because they took it down. Yeah, that was the first movie I actually saw. Yeah, it was a Cluck You Chicken. They turned it down, whatever. But Max, it's funny you said Moonraker because we were in London passing through or vacationing, and we went to see Moonraker. We took a double-decker bus. We went to a theater, but it had a balcony. So we watched Moonraker from like up in the balcony.
Oh.
The first James Bond film I saw we were in Italy, and I believe it was 7 years old. I think it was 76. I think it was, Jesus, what was it? Was it, no, it couldn't have been Octopussy, right? It had to be something else. But whatever the movie was, we begged my father to go see it because all the British kids, oh, there's a James Bond film in English. We're going to go see it. I begged my father. And him and my mother like, you guys are too young to see that. I'm like, all the other kids in class are going, whatever.
Probably Moonraker. Moonraker was the first one I saw in the theater,
Yeah,
Lou.
we were probably a little too young for it because it was a little racy for us, but great films.
Yeah, I think for me though, I mean, with that kind of detective spy thing, I think I was probably more the black and white stuff. The Sherlock Holmes,
Sure.
Charlie Chan that
Right.
used to play on stuff. But you know what? We're talking about 1964. And I know we're running out of time real quick, but we cannot forget, if we're going to talk about 1964, we can't forget to talk about the World's Fair in New York, right?
Yes.
And so that was obviously a big thing in New York. And the Ford Motor Company came out with a brand new automobile that they got it out early to make sure that they got it debuted for that 1964.
Wait, hold on. This is the most important part of the whole segment. Go ahead, Max. Reveal.
Right. That's it. Right. Ford Motor Company, the avid of the pony, the Ford Mustang, right?
That's correct.
That was a huge thing, and still the only car that I know of that recognizes a model year 1964 and a half.
Wow.
There's no other car that uses that half in there, but Ford Motor. I know Lou's excited. I'm excited. I have a passion for
the Chevy
Ford
guys
Mustang.
and the Dodge guys, but love Mustangs.
Yep. So that 64 and a half, which, I don't know what's the difference between a 64 and a half and a 65, a data plate that says it was built in 1964 and probably around during the time of the World Fair. But that's a huge thing. We can't skip the Ford Mustang.
Yeah. And a couple of other things we really can't skip though, as we're getting towards the end here, is clearly from the opening there, the Beatles debuted in America in 1964.
Correct.
Which was, one of the biggest things that ever happened. It changed music completely. I mean, they really did.
Yeah.
Change music and change what kids were listening to and things along those lines. You've also got in 1964 the debut of one of the all-time classic toys, G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe,
G.I.
yeah.
Joe came out in 1964.
Yep. Yep.
Still going to this day, and probably really the first major action figure for boys to play with, would you say, other than toy soldiers that they would have had as a kid, you know?
Yeah,
Well, the
absolutely.
articulation was way different, right?
Yeah,
And
a lot of cool stuff. Oh, and where we're talking stuff, we got to talk about some more real fast 8-track tapes. Those came out in 1964. AstroTurf, Diet Pepsi, Pop Tarts, Sharpie markers, Nutella, and hey, Rich, guess what?
What?
Your favorite cereal came out in 1964.
Monster cereals?
Lucky Charms.
That's the one.
Oh no!
And I want to mention 3 more movies that came out because they're all-time classics. 64, Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Fistful of Dollars, the first big spaghetti western that made Clint Eastwood who he is today. And then, of course, this wonderful film that I was in called The Last Man on Earth, which was an adaptation of Richard Matheson's I Am Legend.
Oh,
Heston would later do it as the Omega Man, but I cemented the role.
There you go. Thanks, Vincent, for popping in.
Yeah, I didn't realize you came back in the time capsule with us. Dug them up and everything.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, we just got it's kind of like being photobombed, right?
Yeah, that's true. This is like the audio version of a photobomb.
But I mean, there's so much we could go on for hours about things that happen.
Fortunately,
we only just talk about the Beatles
minutes
alone for an hour, right?
Oh, yeah.
1964, and you're talking about all these fantastic things that debuted that are still relevant to this day and still part of pop culture to this day. You know,
sure.
Maybe a few of these things are sort of distant memories to some. I don't think kids enjoy Gilligan's Island anymore. That's something for us. But you know, G.I. Joe's still around. Bond is still around. Eastwood is still around. The Beatles are still around. You know, all these comic book heroes we talked to are still relevant.
Around.
Batman's definitely still around. Yeah, Mustang's still around too.
Yep.
There you go.
But sadly, we're not going to be around much longer because we need to end this episode. We're well past our time. We need to cram ourselves back into this phone booth. Lou, you are not taking that hot dog with you. Get in the phone booth. All right. Until next time, I am Dr. Durant, also known as Rich Hurley. You can find me on Dr. Durant Sanctum on YouTube, where I discuss all things from 1964 and other years. Toys, comic books, movies, what have you. And my compadres on this adventure have been...
Oh, you want me to go? Lou Melagrana. You can find me on Migo Like on Facebook and our wonderful group. You can catch me on my Migo Like YouTube channel, and you can find our amazing, categorically categorized webpage of action figures and materials from far beyond or far before our time on mymigolike.com. Of course, not far away below me, the original Santa Claus, the original first owner of the Mustang and inventor of the Mustang engine, Mr. Max Overnighter, just so you know.
I am Max Overnighter and you're not. That's all I can say about that. And I'm here in the Peanut Gallery. You'll find me all over Facebook. Don't be shy. Stop by and say hi.
And I'm Vincent Price. You'll find me moldering in my tomb. I've been dead for decades, but Vincent Price never dies. Price, baby.
Oh, my God. All right. We are chiming out.